Today I have a pleasure of Mr. Saurabh Bhatt joining us, one of the credit specialists in our town in New Jersey. And he has had tremendous experience in this field with HSBC and now with Citibank. Saurabh, thank you for joining us.
Sure, thank you.
Saurabh, I'd like to ask you the common theme nowadays that whenever somebody has to borrow money, they always look at credit score. So can you help us understand what is credit score and how one should build it?
Yeah, sure. So, when you talk about credit score, it's really like a behavior, it's like your financial behavior, how you are really behaving as far as your spending habits are and how you're maintaining your own financial assets, etc. So when we talk about building a credit history, first what you need to know is you need to improve your habits of paying regularly, being very responsible for your own finances, and take responsibility. It's at the base, that's all it is. Now when there are two types of people who really need to build their credit history. So for example, there may be kids which are growing up and until now they were dependent on their parents. Now they need to build their own credit history. Right? And then there are other people who are actually new to the country and they don't have anything to prove that they have a good spending history and paying history. So those are the two normal types of people who need to really build up their credit. So for them it's really a challenge because they need to they don't have any loans or any credit cards, etc. So what they really need to do is that there are few ways to do it. Like for example, they can apply for a secured credit cards. They can get themselves added to somebody else's credit cards, and have themselves or get like a co-signer. They can have somebody else co-sign for their own loans. So those are some of the things that they can get started off, and that's how they can build their credit history.
Okay, so any student, let's say, so they can let's say their parents can co-sign for them just to start off the credit score building process.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. So now that leads me to the second question. Then let's say once you have had loans and the credit cards, and we see the credit score fluctuating for people, it goes up and down depending on the various factors. So how one should really maintain the credit score?
Yeah, that's a great question because a lot of people they really get a good credit score and they get a couple credit cards and they get a loan and they think that they have everything that they want, and now they suddenly they did not have any credit history, and now suddenly they see a huge credit limit that they have on their credit cards and huge loans that they can actually borrow against. So sometimes they get carried away, and what they do is they just start to spend, and especially credit cards, they are very notorious about it because they just give you very high credit limits, much higher than what you can really spend. So people start spending, and that's where you need to be really careful. You need to be you need to really think about and take responsibility about what you are spending, and get into a habit of paying it off every month. If you are not able to pay it off, at least be aware that how much interest you are going to get charged, and how are you going to pay it off. You have a plan to make that payment. So those are the key things that you need to that is a key thing that you need to be take care of while you are building your credit history. The other things that you need to take care of are the length of your credit history. Like you need to don't close your once you get a credit card, you can apply for other credit cards. So keep your oldest credit card as long as you can. Just don't keep closing the credit cards when you get a promotional offers or something. You get a new credit card. Just don't close it just because you don't have any use for it, because the oldest credit cards that you have, they are actually the most useful for you because they prove that you have a very long paying credit history. So those are the things that that will help you slowly as you build up your behavior, your paying behavior. That will help you to build your credit history and keep it that high.
Okay, I see. So if you were to look at, let's say, a mortgage industry, and let's say you bought a home, that's a tremendous amount of loan you're carrying. Maybe you have some credit card loans as well, but you want to, let's say, improve your credit scores from there. So maybe if you can tell us maybe just one pointer on that, we'll appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. So, credit score, when we talk about credit score, it is it's very, normally it can be very much misunderstood by people. So one thing you can do is, whenever you have your credit limits on your credit cards, try to increase your credit limits within like few intervals of times, right? Like within like 6 months or 1 year. Maybe if you think that your spending has gone up a little bit, try to apply for new credit cards or try to call your own credit card company to increase your credit limits. That way your debt to income ratio will actually go down, and that will actually raise your credit score.
I've seen that anytime whenever you're requesting for a loan, they're always doing a background check on your credit, and some people say, oh, every time you check your credit score or request for it, it hurts your credit score. So when you're requesting an increase, are they also checking on that, and does it hurt?
Yeah, that's a good question, because a lot of people are really concerned about their credit scores going down if they try to check their credit scores. But on the contrary, it does not happen that often, especially when you ask for a credit line increase. They don't really go and check your credit score, and it will not affect your credit score at all, because they have already pulled your credit score, they have already provided you the limit. All they need to do now is look at their own system and look at how you're performing, how you're paying your bills, and how your spending behavior, and then to decide whether they want to give you a credit line increase or not. So that is something which will not really affect your credit scores. And to really touch up on that point, even if you have a high credit score, when you really apply for a new credit card, that is when they really do a credit pull, which is called a hard credit pull, where they need to go and check their credit scores, and it will affect your credit score, but not as much, because if you're applying for a new credit card and if you get approved, your limit will actually go up.
So Saurabh, being an insider in the industry, what are some of the facts that a commoner doesn't know that they should be knowing, in fact?
Yeah, good question, because a lot of when you really are a consumer, you do not know how the credit card companies look at you. So I would say the number one thing is make your payments on time every month. So that is, I cannot stress less on it. Just make your payments monthly, regularly. That is number one way to keep up your credit score. And a lot of people actually miss some payments and they don't know that how much it can impact your credit score. So that is the number one thing. Number two, which a lot of consumers do not know, is what credit card companies use is a debt to income ratio. Meaning, for example, if you have a credit limit of $1,000 and if you spend 900 of it every month, then actually you are using 90% of your credit limit every month. This limit is actually very high, and credit card companies do not look at it in a positive way, and they actually, credit score can actually go down because of this. So one of the things that consumers could do is they could actually use their credit limit wisely and use only like 10 to 25% of their credit limit. That doesn't mean that you can only spend a little bit on your credit cards. That actually also means that as the time goes by, you should actually try to increase your credit limit. You can call your own credit card companies, for example, and request them for a credit line increase. Or, based on your built-up credit history, you can actually apply for new credit cards, and that way you can increase your overall credit limit.